The rain came down in sheets, heavy and relentless, as though the skies themselves mourned with her. Anya stood by the window of her small apartment, the glass fogging from her shallow breaths. She should have been at her wedding rehearsal that evening, surrounded by friends, flowers, and the man who once promised her forever. Instead, she was here alone, numb, and trying to comprehend how quickly life could unravel. It had been only 3 days since she discovered the truth. 3 days since the world she built around love and trust shattered in a single brutal instant. Raghav, her fiancé of 3 years, the man she once thought her soulmate, had betrayed her in the cruelest way possible. Not just infidelity, Anya could have almost forgiven a fleeting mistake, but with deliberate calculation, he had left her for someone else. Worse, he hadn't even had the decency to confess. She had found out through a photo, one that a friend sent her without context. A glossy image of Raghav and another woman laughing together at a candlelit dinner, his hand tenderly brushing hers, his smile brighter than it had ever been with Anya in months. Her first reaction had been denial. Surely it was old. Surely there was an explanation. But explanations crumbled when she confronted him. His silence said everything. The way he avoided her eyes, the way his lips pressed into a thin line, it was an admission without words. And then came the words, cruel in their simplicity. Anya, I don't think I can do this anymore. I found someone who makes me feel alive. Alive, as if her love had been a slow death. She had stood frozen in the center of his living room, clutching the engagement ring that suddenly weighed like iron on her finger. Her mind scrambled for responses, for logic, for anger, but all she managed was a trembling whisper, "After everything we've been through?" Raghav had sighed like she was a burden he was relieved to put down. "You'll understand someday. We're not meant for each other. I wish you well, Anya." And that was it. No apology, no shame. Just a cold dismissal of years of love and sacrifice. Now, 3 days later, she replayed that moment endlessly, the words like shards in her chest. She hadn't cried yet, not fully. Tears burned her eyes but never fell, as though her body refused to give him that power. Instead, there was only silence inside her, a silence so heavy it suffocated her. Her phone buzzed on the table. Another message from her best friend, Myra. "Pick up, Anya. Please, let me come over." But Anya couldn't face anyone. Not yet. Because beneath the silence was something else, something growing like fire under ash. Anger. It wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation. Everyone knew. Her wedding was supposed to be the talk of their town. Invitations had been sent, preparations made. And now she was the abandoned bride, the pitiable girl whose fiancé had traded her in for something shinier. She pressed her palm against the window pane, watching raindrops streak like tears. "No," she whispered to herself, the first word she'd spoken in hours. "He doesn't get to define me. Not like this." That night, she opened her laptop and deleted every wedding folder, every saved picture of venues and dresses. Her finger hovered over the engagement album, a gallery of smiles that now looked like masks. She didn't delete it. Not yet. She wanted the reminder, not of what she lost, but of what she survived. The days that followed were a blur of mechanical motions. She called off the vendors, endured their awkward sympathies. She informed relatives, her voice steady though her insides trembled. Some tried to console her, others whispered behind her back. But Anya absorbed it all in silence, and then one evening, Myra showed up at her door despite her protests. The best friend she had known since childhood, with eyes full of worry and arms ready to hold. "You don't have to do this alone," Myra said, pulling her into a hug. For the first time, Anya let herself cry. The sobs tore out of her, raw and unrestrained, staining Myra's shoulder. It wasn't weakness, it was release. Hours later, drained but lighter, she realized something important. The pain would not destroy her. It would forge her dot in the weeks that followed. Anya made a decision. If life had stolen her dreams, she would build new ones. She threw herself into work, volunteering for challenging projects, staying late, proving to herself that she was more than someone's discarded love. She began attending fitness classes, not out of vanity, but to feel strong in her own skin again. She joined a book club, rediscovering joy in small conversations and stories. Slowly, the world opened up again. And within her, the fire burned brighter, because Anya knew one truth. The best revenge wasn't rage or retaliation. It was transformation. To become someone so radiant, so fulfilled, that the one who broke her could do nothing but regret. Asterisk, the city was alive in ways Anya had never noticed before. Maybe it was because she had been too caught up in her relationship, too consumed with Raghav's moods, his ambitions, his endless need for validation. Now, walking through the bustling streets after work, she felt like she was seeing it all for the first time, the neon signs glowing against dusky skies, the chatter of strangers in coffee shops, the rhythm of life moving forward, whether she kept up or not. Dot at first, it was hard. Every corner reminded her of him. The park where they had strolled on lazy Sundays, the cafe where he first kissed her, even the bookstore they had once browsed together, laughing about their different tastes. But instead of avoiding these places, she forced herself to face them. Each visit was a silent declaration: I am not broken. I am still here. Her office colleagues began to notice the change. Anya, once reserved, now volunteered ideas in meetings, her voice steady and confident. She stayed late not because she was escaping loneliness, but because she wanted to learn, to grow. Her boss, Mr. Mehta, was impressed. I see potential in you, Anya, he said one evening, handing her a challenging new assignment. Don't waste it. Those words lit a spark inside her. She poured herself into her work, learning skills she had once left to others, mastering presentations, negotiating with clients. Slowly, she carved a reputation not as the girl left behind, but as a rising professional with grit and talent. Outside of work, Mira was her anchor. We're not spending weekends crying over losers, she declared, dragging Anya to fitness classes, painting workshops, even a salsa night where Anya awkwardly stumbled through the steps. They laughed, they tried, they lived. Each experience reminded Anya that life had colors beyond heartbreak. One evening, at the gym, Anya caught her reflection in the mirror. Her body was leaner, stronger. There was a sharpness in her eyes she hadn't seen before, a quiet resilience. She smiled at herself, not out of vanity, but pride. This was her, a woman who had been shattered, but who chose to rebuild. And yet, no matter how much she moved forward, Raghav lingered like a shadow. Sometimes she saw updates of him on social media, pictures with the woman he had chosen over her. They looked happy, radiant even. For a brief second, doubts would creep in. Was she really not enough? Was love with her truly so empty? But then she reminded herself of his coldness, the way he had dismissed their years together without remorse. Happiness built on betrayal was fragile, and one day it would collapse. Months passed. Seasons shifted. Anya grew into her new life, piece by piece, and then fate played its hand. It was at a charity gala hosted by her company. Anya had been asked to represent her department, a recognition of her growing importance. She wore a simple yet elegant navy blue gown, her hair styled in soft waves, a touch of confidence in every step. The hall was filled with glittering lights, music, and the hum of influential people networking. And there he was, Raghav, standing across the room, glass of wine in hand, dressed in a tailored suit. His eyes widened when they landed on her, and for a brief moment, time froze. Anya felt the old ache stir inside her chest, but it wasn't as sharp as before. Instead, there was something else. Calm, control. He made his way toward her, weaving through the crowd. She stood her ground, refusing to flinch. When he finally stopped in front of her, his voice carried an awkward warmth. Anya, it's been a while. She tilted her head, offering a polite smile. It has. He studied her, perhaps expecting bitterness, perhaps hoping for longing, but her composure unsettled him. You look different. Good. Thank you, she replied simply, her tone neutral. An uncomfortable silence stretched between them. He shifted as if unsure how to proceed. Finally, he asked, How have you been? Anya's lips curved into a genuine smile. Thriving. The word hit him like a slap, though she said it with grace. She didn't elaborate, didn't give him the satisfaction of details. She excused herself, turning to join a group of colleagues deep in conversation. As she walked away, she could feel his gaze on her back, heavy with something he couldn't name regret. That night, lying in bed, Anya replayed the encounter. For the first time, she didn't feel pain. She felt power. She hadn't planned revenge, hadn't sought confrontation, but just by living, by rising above, she had taken back control of her story. Asterisk, the weeks after the gala felt different. Something in Anya had shifted that night when she stood face to face with Raghav. For so long, she had imagined what she would say if she ever saw him again. Sharp words, maybe accusations or even cold silence. Instead, it had taken only one word, thriving, to reclaim her power. She realized then that revenge wasn't always about dramatic gestures. Sometimes it was about quiet strength, about walking into a room and showing the world that the one who hurt you had no power anymore, but life had a curious way of rewarding growth. It was a rainy Saturday morning when Myra convinced her to join a community service event at the children's hospital. Come on, it'll be good for you, Myra urged. Besides, you'll love it. They're looking for volunteers to run art activities with the kids. Anya hesitated at first. Hospitals reminded her too much of her father's illness years ago, the helplessness of watching someone she loved fade. But Myra was insistent, and Anya had promised herself she wouldn't shy away from life anymore. So she went. The hospital wing was bright and filled with cheerful murals. Though the faint smell of antiseptic lingered, children of various ages sat around tables, crayons and paints scattered everywhere. Their laughter echoed despite their fragile frames. Anya's heart softened as she knelt beside a little girl struggling to draw a flower. Here, Anya said gently, guiding her hand. Like this. See how the petals open up? The girl's eyes lit up, and Anya felt something stir in her. Just an old part of herself she had buried during the chaos of heartbreak, compassion, joy. That was when she met him. Looks like you've got a natural talent for this, a warm voice said behind her. She turned to see a man standing there, tall, dressed in a doctor's coat. His name badge read Dr. Arjun Malhotra. His smile was kind, his eyes steady, carrying none of the arrogance she had grown used to with Raghav. I wouldn't call it talent, Anya replied lightly. Just practice from doodling during boring office meetings. Arjun chuckled, and it was a sound that made her stomach flutter in a way she hadn't felt in years. But she pushed the feeling aside. She wasn't ready for that. Not yet. Still, over the next few weeks, their paths crossed again and again. Anya continued volunteering, drawn to the children and the sense of purpose it gave her. Arjun was often there, coordinating activities, checking on patients. He had a way of making everyone feel seen, whether it was a child scared of injections or a volunteer unsure of their role. One evening, as they packed up supplies, Arjun turned to her. You know, most people volunteer once and never come back. But you keep showing up. Anya shrugged, a small smile tugging her lips. I guess it feels good to matter. You do, he said simply, and the sincerity in his voice caught her off guard. They began talking more after that. About books, about their childhoods, about dreams they hadn't shared with many. For Anya, it was new, this ease, this lack of pretense. With Raghav, conversations had often revolved around him, his job, his stress, his ambitions. With Arjun, it was balanced, genuine. He listened as much as he spoke, and he laughed with her, not at her. One evening. After a long day at work, Anya found herself at the hospital again, sitting in the lounge with Arjun. The rain tapped against the windows, soft and rhythmic. She hadn't planned to tell him her story, but somehow it spilled out: the broken engagement, the betrayal, the months of rebuilding. When she finished, there was no pity in his eyes, only respect. You must be incredibly strong, he said quietly. Anya blinked, taken aback. Strong? I felt weak for so long. Strength isn't about never breaking, Arjun replied. It's about how you rise after you do. The words settled into her heart like a seed finding soil. Over time, she realized she was looking forward to these moments with him. The way he made her laugh at the smallest things. The way he noticed details, how she preferred her coffee with a little extra sugar, how she pushed her hair behind her ear when she was nervous. Still, fear lingered. Could she trust again? Was she ready to let someone close? Meera noticed the change, of course. One evening over dinner, she smirked. So, Dr. Arjun, huh? He's handsome. And you can't stop smiling when you talk about him? Anya rolled her eyes, though her cheeks warmed. It's not like that. He's just a good friend. Sure, Meera teased. And I just go to the gym for the snacks afterward? Anya laughed, but inside, she wondered if maybe Myra was right. Her heart was cautious, scarred, but it was beating again. And maybe, just maybe, it was ready for more. What Anya didn't know then was that destiny was quietly weaving a new story for her, one where love would not be betrayal, but healing. And one day soon, she would face Raghav again. Only this time, the tables would turn in ways she never imagined. Asterisk, the seasons shifted again. Summer's heat mellowed into autumn's golden embrace, and with it came new beginnings. Anya had settled into a rhythm that felt both foreign and exhilarating. Long workdays, filled with challenges she now thrived on. Evenings at the gym or hospital, and weekends spent rediscovering herself, and Arjun was becoming a bigger part of that rhythm than she had expected. It started with small things. A text message to check if she got home safely. A coffee left on her desk during volunteer shifts. An inside joke that only they understood, shared in a glance across the room. They hadn't labeled whatever was forming between them, but it pulsed with a warmth Anya hadn't felt in years. One evening, after a particularly hectic volunteer day, Arjun offered to walk her home. The city streets were alive with the glow of lanterns strung up for a festival, laughter echoing from street vendors and families strolling together. Anya found herself smiling, not just at the lights, but at the quiet presence beside her. You ever think, she said softly, about how life can just change in an instant? Like one choice, one betrayal, and suddenly everything you thought was solid is gone. Arjun glanced at her, his expression thoughtful. I think about it often, but I also think that sometimes what feels like the end is just the beginning of something better. Anya stopped walking, staring at him. His words weren't just platitudes. They carried weight, sincerity. She wanted to believe them. She wanted to believe him better. She echoed, her voice almost a whisper. He nodded. Yes, because the wrong people fall away, and it makes space for the right ones. The air between them grew charged, heavy with unspoken meaning. For a moment, Anya's breath caught. She could feel her heart racing, a mix of excitement and fear. She looked away, breaking the spell. "I'm not ready," she murmured. Arjun didn't push. He simply smiled gently. "Then I'll wait. Sometimes the best things in life are worth waiting for." Those words settled into her like an anchor, not pressure, but patience. For the first time, she realized she didn't have to rush. Healing had no deadline. Meanwhile, her career was soaring. Mr. Mehta, her boss, entrusted her with leading an international project, a feat no one in her department had achieved so quickly. She worked tirelessly, coordinating with teams across borders, mastering the art of negotiation and surprising even herself with how capable she had become. The insecure, dependent woman who once tied her identity to Raghav's approval was gone. In her place stood someone fierce, confident, and undeniably respected. At the project's grand presentation, Anya delivered a speech that left the audience spellbound. Applause thundered through the hall, and Mr. Mehta beamed with pride. Later, he pulled her aside and said, "You're not just rising, Anya, you're soaring. Don't ever let anyone dim that light." But fate wasn't done testing her. A few weeks later, she attended a corporate conference in Delhi. The event was sprawling, filled with industry leaders, media, and professionals from across the country. Anya moved through it with poise, networking and presenting with ease. And then she heard the voice. "Anya?" She turned, and there was Raghav. Her breath stilled for a moment. He looked older somehow, less vibrant. The woman he had left her for was nowhere in sight. Instead, he stood alone, holding a drink, his smile tentative. "What a surprise," he said, trying for charm. Anya composed herself, offering a polite nod. "Raghav." They exchanged small talk, but she could sense the unease in his demeanor. He kept asking about her work, her achievements, her travels. His eyes flickered with something she recognized all too well. Regret. Finally, he sighed. "You've changed so much. You seem happy." "I'm glad." She met his gaze, her expression calm but firm. "I am." The simplicity of her answer seemed to wound him more than any sharp words could. He hesitated, then admitted, "Things didn't work out for me the way I thought they would." Anya tilted her head, studying him. For years, she had dreamed of this moment, of watching him confess his failure, of savoring his downfall. But now, standing here, she felt nothing, no triumph, no bitterness, only closure. "I hope you find what you're looking for," she said quietly, then excused herself. As she walked away, she realized the truth. The best revenge wasn't making him suffer. It was not caring anymore. Later that evening, sitting on the hotel balcony overlooking the city lights, Anya called Meera. She recounted the encounter, her voice steady. "So, how did it feel?" Myra asked. "Liberating," Anya said with a small smile. "For the first time, I think I've truly let him go." And with that letting go, her heart felt lighter than it had in years. Which meant perhaps it was finally ready to open again. She thought of Arjun, of his patience, his kindness, the way he made her feel seen. For the first time, the idea of love didn't terrify her. It felt possible. What she didn't know was that love was already on its way, steadier, stronger, and more enduring than she had ever known. Anya returned from Delhi with a clarity she hadn't expected. Facing Raghav had been the final test, the ghost she needed to confront. And now that he no longer haunted her, she felt truly free. That freedom changed the way she carried herself. She walked with an ease that turned heads. Her laughter came more readily, and her focus sharpened both at work and in her personal life. It was as though she had been carrying a heavy weight for years, and now that it was gone, her spirit soared. It was during one of her volunteering shifts that Arjun finally crossed the invisible line between friendship and something more. The children had just finished an art competition, their drawings proudly displayed along the walls of the ward. Anya and Arjun stood side by side, admiring the colorful chaos. One boy had drawn a superhero doctor with a giant smile, and next to him, a kind woman holding flowers. "Look," Arjun said, pointing at the picture. "That's you." Anya laughed. "Me? With flowers? I can't even keep a cactus alive." "I'm serious," he said, his gaze steady. "That's how they see you. Kind, brave, someone who makes their world brighter." The sincerity in his tone made her chest tighten. She opened her mouth to deflect with humor, but the words stuck. He wasn't teasing. He meant it, and then softly he added, "That's how I see you too." The air grew heavy, the noise of the children fading into the background. Anya's heart raced. She searched his eyes, expecting hesitation, but found only patience, warmth. "Arjun?" She began, her voice trembling. "I'm scared." He reached for her hand, not gripping tightly, just holding it gently, as though to remind her she wasn't alone. "So am I," he admitted. "But maybe that's what makes it real." Something in her broke open then, not in pain, but in release. She squeezed his hand back, and for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to hope. Their relationship unfolded slowly, like a sunrise breaking through mist. Dates at cozy cafes, long walks by the riverside, evenings cooking disastrous meals that ended in laughter. Arjun never rushed her, never demanded more than she could give. He simply showed up consistently, tenderly. Mira, of course, was delighted. "Finally," she exclaimed one evening after Anya told her. "I was beginning to think you'd marry your work instead." Anya blushed but smiled. "It's different this time, with him. I don't feel like I have to prove myself. I can just be." But happiness didn't erase the scars. Some nights, doubt crept in. She would wake from dreams of betrayal, her chest tight, fear whispering that history might repeat itself. On those nights, Arjun would simply hold her hand and remind her softly, "You're safe." "I'm not him." His patience became the balm her heart needed. Months passed and their bond deepened. Her career continued to soar, and her life felt fuller than ever. Yet destiny had one final twist in store, the kind of twist that would bring everything full circle. It happened at another gala. This time one Anya herself was helping organize through her company. She and Arjun arrived together, her arm linked with his, their connection evident in every glance they exchanged. She wore a deep emerald gown that shimmered under the lights, her confidence radiating, and once again, Raghav was their. This time, however, he wasn't the charming man she once fell for. His suit was slightly ill-fitted, his expression strained. Whispers circulated through the crowd. His startup had failed. His new relationship had ended. He looked diminished, a shadow of the man who had once dismissed her so easily. When his eyes landed on Anya, walking gracefully with Arjun at her side, his face tightened. He approached, trying to muster his old charm. "Anya," he said, forcing a smile. "You look incredible." "Thank you," she replied politely, her tone even. His gaze flickered to Arjun. "And you are?" "Arjun Malhotra," Arjun said, extending his hand with quiet confidence. "Her partner." The word partner landed like a stone in Raghav's gut. He shook Arjun's hand but quickly withdrew, his composure faltering. Turning back to Anya, he said, "I've been meaning to reach out, to apologize. I was stupid. I didn't realize what I had." Anya studied him for a long moment. Once, those words would have been everything she craved. Now they meant nothing. "I hope you find peace, Raghav," she said softly. "But I don't need your apology. I've moved on." Her words were calm, not cruel, but they struck harder than anger ever could. She turned to Arjun, who smiled at her with quiet pride, and together they walked away. Later that night, as they danced under the shimmering lights, Anya felt a deep, steady joy. Not the fragile happiness she once clung to with Raghav, but something stronger, rooted in truth and respect. In that moment, she realized her revenge had never been about making Raghav suffer. It was about reclaiming herself, her dignity, her joy. And she had done it. The girl who had once been shattered was gone. In her place stood a woman reborn, strong, radiant, and unafraid to love again. Asterisk months melted into seasons, and with each passing day, Anya's life bloomed in ways she once thought impossible. The woman who had been abandoned, betrayed, and humiliated was now the woman others admired, not just for her resilience, but for her grace in moving forward. One crisp autumn morning, as golden leaves swirled across the streets, Arjun suggested they take a weekend trip to the mountains. Anya agreed eagerly, craving the peace of winding trails and fresh air. They drove for hours, laughter filling the car, music humming in the background. By the time they reached a secluded cabin, twilight had draped the sky, and deep purples and fiery oranges dot the next day. While hiking along a quiet ridge, Arjun paused at a viewpoint overlooking an endless valley. The horizon stretched out before them, a tapestry of ridges and mist. He turned to her, his expression both nervous and certain. "Anya," he began, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "You know my life hasn't been the same since you walked into it. You taught me what strength looks like, what kindness feels like, what love truly means. And I can't imagine walking any future without you." Her breath caught as he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "Will you marry me?" The world seemed to still. Anya's eyes filled with tears, not of sorrow this time, but of overwhelming joy. She remembered everything she had endured, the betrayal, the nights of despair, the endless questions of whether she was enough. And now, standing here, loved and cherished, she realized her story had never been about losing. It had always been about finding herself. "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling with happiness. "Yes, Arjun." He slipped the ring onto her finger, and as the wind carried their laughter across the valley, Anya knew this was the ending she had fought for, not revenge, not retribution, but renewal. Their wedding months later was nothing extravagant, nothing that screamed for attention. It was intimate, filled with friends who had stood by her, children from the hospital ward who scattered petals down the aisle, and Mira, who cried louder than anyone else as Anya walked toward Arjun that day. Her heart steady, she felt no trace of the pain that once consumed her. Raghav was nowhere in her thoughts. He was a chapter closed, a faded page in a book that no longer defined her. Instead, every step was a testament to her resilience, every smile a promise of the life she had chosen for herself. When Arjun took her hands in his, the vows they exchanged were simple yet profound: to stand together through storms and sunshine, to choose each other every single day. And as they sealed their vows with a kiss, Anya felt a quiet triumph flood her being. She had not just survived, she had risen in the years that followed. Her life was not without challenges. There were setbacks at work, sleepless nights with their first child, moments of doubt that crept in uninvited. But through it all, she carried the strength she had forged in her darkest times. Whenever she faltered, she reminded herself she was no longer the woman defined by betrayal. She was the woman who had rewritten her story. Her greatest revenge had never been in Raghav's downfall, though life had dealt him enough humbling blows. Her greatest revenge was the radiant, fulfilled life she had built, one he could only watch from afar, knowing he no longer had any place in it. Years later, when her daughter asked, "Mama, have you ever been hurt?" Anya smiled gently, brushing back the child's hair. "Yes," she said honestly, "but that hurt made me stronger. It taught me who I am, and it led me to where I was meant to be." Her daughter tilted her head. "And where's that?" Anya kissed her forehead. Right here. With you. With your father. With this life I chose. And in that tender moment, Anya knew the truth she had long been searching for. Revenge was never about destruction, it was about transformation. About turning pain into power, betrayal into freedom, endings into beginnings. Her vows had once been shattered, but her triumph was eternal.